Let me first introduce myself. I represent Cognizant. I lead the Cognizant Consulting Life Sciences practice for India. I also play a dual role of being the commercial lead for the team. So sales and marketing is something which I am quite adverse with. Now, today we are here to give a perspective on data modernization. Now, while we were thinking what would we like to present out here, because it was an innovation and technology summit, we wanted to pick up areas where we see a lot of improvement that can still go into this place. And that's why we picked data modernization. One more reason for picking data modernization was also, I think we have seen a lot of change in the way data is generated. If I compare a couple of years back, maybe not even a couple of years, 4 to 5 years back, data for us was more working with Excels initially, but now with the advent of digital technologies, the more we are getting involved in digital technology, the more the data is being used, and you are looking forward to have as much insights as possible through the data that is generated. Now, and the special factor of pharma industry is that across the value chain, there is tons of data. I mean, if I right from drug discovery, or if I move on, yeah, right from drug discovery to the commercial space, you name it, and everyone wants to innovate. And you see that the data is generated in different kinds of ways. But is it what is driving data modernization? Yes, that is the fact, because we have evolved ourselves through the years. We have moved from Excel based, we have moved from various changes. In addition to this, the pandemic has really helped us to get into the digital world and to ensure that we use the data very easily. Now, I'll just like to harp upon on commercial side. I'll just take an example there. When we started with getting into channels, right? What was the need then? It was probably channel analytics. We wanted to ensure that we have good channel base, we have a fair understanding of how my channels are being utilized. But did it end there? No. We then moved to multi-channel engagement, where we wanted to see how the channels can be brought together and how we can use the data to get more business insights. Because what is important is, the more you give that integrated view, the more better discussions you can have with your stakeholders. So from multi-channel we went to omni-channel, and right now we are in a stage where we are talking about customer 360, which is far more beyond channels. It is basically trying to integrate even the medical device data. We are trying to integrate even the data which is available via various social media aspects, and try to create that customer 360 view. So that's primarily what how the data is changing, and this demand and this is really calling out for a data modernization activity, or we need to do that transformation in place. And I'm sure each one in this room are actually driving their own ways and means in terms of achieving this goal of data modernization. It could be some of you would have already moved to cloud, some of you would have been trying to get into the next level, which is getting into analytics. So primarily, it's only because of the data you can see those emerging trends coming in, wherein you want to move from your silo world of things, and you want to get into the fact that you are moving into cloud and getting that integrated view ready. Likewise, reporting is also something which has come a long way. I mean, from the Excel-based reports, now we are talking about reports which are available where you are defining the KPIs beforehand through the value chain, and you are ready with those reports, because that's your first trigger in terms of making your business decisions. The third piece is, yes, am I happy with that? No, what next? What next on the data modernization phase is the decision intelligence, where we are trying to explore predictive, prescriptive analytics and trying to see how do I get into a shoe where when I am meeting a customer or when I am defining a campaign strategy, I know exactly what is that I should be working on. So that's where decision intelligence comes into play. And these are the primary three trends that are quite aligned on this slide, on the data modernization side. Now, moving on. So, yes, it's easy to say, let us get a lot of insights. It's easy to say that let's define the value that is coming out of the data, but it doesn't come easily. There are n number of challenges when you are trying to bring the data together. So the first, if you ask me based on my experience handling the transformation work through the years, I think two major areas where we see a great challenge is one is on unification or the integration of data, because data comes in different ways, formats, structures, as such. It's primarily trying to understand how do you bring it together in a way which is unified and easy to comprehend. So that's one area where I think is the biggest challenge, because you can explore the digital world and you can see through the whole channel, right? You have next best action, you have prescriptive analytics, you also have augmented reality, multi-cloud, IoT. Everything is there, but more it comes, it is also the fact that unification should be seamless, it should be easy to understand, and hence it's also important that when you are defining the data strategy, which is primarily what we want to touch in today's session, is when you plan ahead of time, you take into account these challenges and try to define a strategy that will work well. Now the second challenge that I have seen is data governance. When we are making any kind of data modernization, there is a lot of cultural shift which is happening. Lot of changes. The team has to be ready with the change that is happening, how to basically take care of the changes. So there is so much of change management that is involved, plus you have to be sure that you have those, you have that boundary laid, set up, the processes being set up. So governance, to my mind, is the next biggest challenge that is accounted when you are trying to bring the data together. So while, like I said, while we understand the challenges, we do have, whenever we are starting with a data modernization journey, wherever you are in the journey stage, right? It's important that you keep the challenges up front and accordingly lay out the strategy for it. So that's primarily, like I said, what we are going to call out. We are focusing on building a data strategy which will ensure there is a comprehensive and integrated data modernization and management process. And just to reiterate or just to summarize, it is basically the first and foremost key thing when it comes to data strategy is to ensure that you have a good understanding of the data. You understand what are the components, what are the alignments aligned to the data, so that you are well prepared when you are doing a data strategy. Likewise, the architecture, you need to have a scalable architecture that supports data modernization needs, and you are set through the data modernization journey. We spoke about governance model, so that's the third element, and yes, you cannot do all this once you have all this in place. The analytics and insights, the magic that it brings to give that 360-degree view is what makes a difference. So that's also something, what are the kind of analytics, what are the kind of insights you want to drive is also quite aligned to the fact that how do you define your strategy. Now, I would like to spend some time on basically taking you to the framework which we as Cognizant believe in, and we feel this is something that would help in enabling a good, robust data strategy. Now here, the first and foremost, like I mentioned, was the approach, which is basically the AI-driven data first approach, where you are ensuring that you have, while you are setting up the stage, you have the simplification and the transformation taken into account. You have the future-ready scalability taken into account, and then you are defining it, and you are using AI in the right way to get yourself ready for this. The next, there are 3 tenets to this. So the second tenet out here is the data governance. I think we have spent a good amount of time on that. But yeah, I mean, again, based on our experience, I would like to really call out that this is an area which is not really, this is kind of overlooked. So we really need to spend time on this. And the third is, which is quite critical from a pharma industry perspective, is the integrity of the data, where we have securities, authentication, I think encryption and reporting compliance. These are quite important. Now, because we are using AI, because we are using different tools and technology, and the regulation around these technologies are also getting evolved. I mean, you see FDA releasing guidelines on usage of AI, how do you use it, how do you ensure the data integrity is maintained, the data security is maintained, and the data is used in the right manner. From that perspective also, this is a very key element that has to be accounted when you are working on a data platform security. So these 3 tenets, along with the 3 pillars which are there, the first one being the responsive data architecture. Here, like I mentioned, the strategy is basically a blueprint of your roadmap. How do you want to set it up? So your business value analysis that you are trying to achieve through the data has to be taken into account. Then, the unification of data, we spoke about this when I spoke about the challenge part of it, and the agility. Agility and standardization is again a very important pillar that defines your framework for data modernization. So this 3 tenets along with the 3 pillars and ensuring that your technology, process and people are also aligned in this process, I think there we are in defining a well thought through data strategy. Now further on, I mean, just wanted to let you know that when we are talking about data, it's not that when we are defining it, we are doing it department-wise or something. Currently the plan is, or currently what we generally are doing is keeping the enterprise data into account. So it does consider enterprise data. It does consider the building blocks, which are basically train yourself with the data and get to the next level. And the third part of it is, again, ensuring that you have an integration of the processes go and you understand it well enough. So that's primarily what has been considered and taken into account while you are developing the framework. And by doing this, yes, you will have a good data stewardship in foundation. You will have data which can be enriched as you go further in the journey. The third piece is democratization, is basically creating data and process driven. So that's also something that can be achieved. And of course, you will develop a lot of data program management services as through this. So that's primarily the whole data modernization framework that has to be accounted for defining a well-defined data strategy. Now, it's not that we are just, or I'm presenting here talking about this and not implemented it. So what I wanted to take this group was also to explain a similar scenario where we have done this for one of our customers, where we applied this and we have seen good amount of changes there. Now, we had a customer in Switzerland, and I think most of the challenges that we spoke from a data perspective were all there, but data duplication was another area that they were looking at. In addition to this, they were also trying to understand how do we create a MVP model in place for a data that can help in basically taking it to various markets across BUs and do it in a phased manner. So they wanted an MVP which can be optimized as required as you enter a new country as well as you enter a new BU, or you're trying to use it, the same framework, use it in a BU also. So that was primarily what was required. Now here we first started with construct 0, which is not called out here, which is basically the assessment of it, because any data strategy cannot be done without a thorough assessment in place. So construct 0 was primarily where we did an in-depth assessment of the current landscape of their structure, how they are, how the enterprise data flows, what are the various business functions, what are the current processes, what they are looking from an objective perspective. So all those have been taken care, and then we moved into the implementation phase where we started developing it again in phases in an agile manner, but ensuring that we take key steps slowly and achieve the goal of having a robust data strategy that will help in having immediate business discussions by the various stakeholders. So the first construct was more in terms of creating a centralized data hub. Then we had the second construct, which was on cloud adoption, which is basically ensuring that you have a good storage facility available, you're moving centralized. Then the third one is basically ensuring that you have it made available for the business stakeholders, for the various stakeholders, IT stakeholders, so that the data can be used in the right way. And that basically brings you to the fourth stage, which is basically building in analytics on top of it and getting it, enabling self-driven analytics also, and also giving them giving them a place where they could actually go through the data themselves and play around with the data. So that's the fourth construct. And the fifth is basically more on industrialization, the platform industrialization, where you're taking the platform itself to the next level. Like I mentioned, MVP in place, the minimal viable product, which can be customized as you move cross BUs. You want to share the best practices cross BUs together. Then if you want to roll it out to multiple countries, how do you use it and optimize it and align it to the respective countries? And in the whole process, trying to see how you can bring technology to your advantage. How do you build AI/ML? How do you use automation as a facility? The continuous improvement that can be brought into the data. So that's primarily the industrialization area where we end up doing it. And yes, from an outcome perspective, I think the best thing that was the insight as a service, because I think that's what made a difference. They had it available, ready to use, how to be used across BUs. So that's primarily that was the biggest business outcome that they felt we helped them achieve. And of course, the improved turnaround time. The launches were more faster because we were able to map or mimic the same data model with some bit of optimization. So that's where we showed some decrease in 30% of turnaround time. So yeah, that's primarily on the data framework and how we use the framework with one of our clients. Likewise, we do have other case studies also, but given the time, I think we focused on just one. So thanks for a great listening. I mean, I am seeing that I'm getting a good response from all of you. So thank you for your active listening. We also have a booth outside where we are going to present one of, again, some of the newer areas. We have a booth on metaverse as well as on digital twin. So whenever you get a chance, please do visit it, because it's again taking you to the next level and ensuring that you are in that innovation and technology journey there. Thank you for